Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. In this one, I will discuss as well as showcase the ultimate best class setup and loadout for the NZ41 assault rifle here in Call of Duty Warzone Pacific. So of course guys, I must admit it's been quite a little while since the last time that I made a new video, and quite frankly I thought my job was going to be falling off and I have no clue how to record a new one. But yeah, with that said, for today's video I'm going to be checking out the NZ41 because of course Call of Duty Warzone Pacific is now live and we can now play on the brand new map Caldera, and I must admit the NZ41 assault rifle is personally my favorite assault rifle in the current state of the game, and actually using this particular rifle I got my first as well as second win on Caldera, and that's actually the gameplay that you guys are going to be watching on your screen right now, so make sure you go ahead and enjoy that. And yeah, with that said, it feels good to be back, and if you go on to enjoy today's video at any given point in time, make sure to leave a like on it down below, as well as subscribe and turn on post notifications so that way you guys will not miss any VLAs and greatest Call of Duty news, class ups, intel, and so much more. So without further ado, now that I got the intro out of the way, let's dive right into it. And alright, so this is going to be my first ever loadout video on Warzone Pacific, and in similar fashion to the class of videos that I made on Call of Duty Vanguard, in this one, to start off, I am going to be talking a little bit about the NZ41 assault rifle, its attributes, how it works, and all kinds of things like that. Then I will be moving over to the class setup or the loadout, breaking it down, and then finally, I'm going to be talking about a couple different points, and I will be ending off the video. And since I actually got my first ever win with the NZ41, I'm going to be letting you guys enjoy some raw gameplay of the actual footage itself. So with that in mind, talking about the NZ41, of course, the NZ41 is a Vanguard assault rifle, so no, don't worry, it's not some really super late Modern Warfare DLC weapon or anything like that. It comes from Vanguard, and with that in mind, in Vanguard, the weapon has a rather slow fire rate, high damage, as well as extremely low recoil, which means that this weapon is extremely good at those medium to longer range engagements, at least in Call of Duty Vanguard. However, things are a little bit different in Warzone, as actually the description in Warzone states, NZ41 from Vanguard, full auto assault rifle with very accurate initial fire. Recoil becomes difficult to control with sustained fire. And this is actually pretty interesting, as it makes the NZ41 very similar to the AN94 assault rifle that we saw back in Black Ops 2. If you guys weren't already aware, the AN94 from Black Ops 2, the initial two shots of the rifle would fire at 940 RPM, and then the subsequent shots would fire at 625 RPM. And in addition to the fire rate, the recoil of the AN94 was very minimal with those first two shots, and then with sustained fire, it would become less and less accurate, and a very similar situation is with the NZ41. Of course, as you guys are going to be seeing throughout the gameplay, there are many instances where I'm aiming down sight with the rifle, and I fire off my first couple shots, and they're extremely accurate. However, when I continue to hold down the trigger, the recoil starts to bounce around a little bit, so it's harder to stay on target. And with that in mind, because of that attribute, the NZ41 really excels at those medium range engagements, you know? It's not an assault rifle like the automaton, where because of its extremely fast fire rate, you can kind of use it like a submachine gun at close range, but it's also not like a marksman rifle or a sniper rifle where you can use it out to those extreme long range engagements, kind of like what the Kilo 141 was like back in Modern Warfare. And also with Bloom being in Warzone, unless you're using a sniper rifle, you don't want to challenge opponents at extreme long ranges with fully automatic assault rifles, because it is very likely that a lot of your shots aren't going to be hitting. So with that in mind, when you're using the NZ41, try to stick to those medium range engagements. That's really where this weapon excels. And also, if you're more proficient with the weapon, you can get away with getting kills at close range engagements, but you will have to make sure to hit your shots, and you really can't spray and pray with this weapon, so just make sure to keep that in mind. Also, I need to mention that in a recent update, the neck damage multiplier was decreased from 1.5 to 1.3, so make sure you leave those necks alone, okay? And alright, so with that said, now let's actually talk about the class setup, which is on your screen right now. Let's actually break it down. Of course, my primary weapon, I will be using the NZ41. I'm not going to be using any blueprint, but if you want to use a blueprint on this weapon, feel free to go ahead and do so. Talking about my secondary weapon, I am going to be using the PPSH-41, and I'm still tinkering around with the class setup, but if you want to have a general idea of the PPSH that I was using in the gameplay, these are the attachments I was using. With that in mind, going back to the class setup, my perk setup is going to be EOD Overkill as well as Amped, and my lethal is going to be the throwing knife, as well as my tactical is going to be the stun grenade. However, if you want to swap out the lethal or the tactical for anything else, feel free to go ahead and do so. And with that said, now let's actually break down these attachments, as I have 9 of them, which is pretty crazy. But of course, my first attachment for my muzzle, I will be using the F8 stabilizer, which will be increasing the accuracy as well as the damage range. Overall, really good on an assault rifle that you want to use at medium medium range engagements. With that in mind, for my barrel, I will be using the Orb Weaver 360mm BC, as it states highly accurate and controllable, as well as reduced scope sway and gun bob. So overall, this particular attachment is going to be slowing down the weapon a little bit, but it's also going to be making this weapon more accurate, which is extremely useful. With that in mind, for my third attachment, I will be using the G16 2.5mm scope, which of course is just a standard scope here in Call of Duty Warzone Pacific, and it's kind of like a holographic sight, as it has a little bit of zoom, but it's nothing too crazy, and overall it just makes this weapon a little bit more effective at longer range, which is a general theme with a lot of the attachments I actually am using on this class setup. With that in mind, for my next attachment, I will be using the Orb Weaver E-Pack, which will be increasing the recoil control, the recoil recovery, the accuracy, as well as the flinch resistance. So overall, all good things on this particular stock, and overall it's pretty self-explanatory as the reason why I will be using it. For my next attachment, of course, I will be using the Carver foregrip, which will be increasing the recoil control as well as the hipfire accuracy. Now I must admit, when you're using the NZ41, you probably won't want to hipfire with it as it's not very accurate, but the recoil control as a benefit for using this particular foregrip is extremely useful. So with that in mind, for my next attachment, I will be using the lengthened ammunition type, as well be increasing the bullet velocity. And to note, it's also going to be increasing the bullet velocity by a pretty significant margin, so that's why it's very useful. Next attachment is of course going to be the polymer grip, which will be increasing the flinch resistance as well as the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. Of course, for my perk, I will be using acrobatic, which will be increasing the movement speed as well as the sprinting move speed. Now the reason why I'm using this particular perk, as it kind of remedies some of the downsides of some of the other attachments that I am going to be using. For example, the barrel as well as the muzzle and the stock all negatively impact the movement speed, so that's how come I am going to be using this perk, as it will just be bumping up the movement speed just to make sure that the player can actually move while using this class setup and actually run around the map and perform pretty well. So with that in mind, of course, my perk 2, I will be using fully loaded, so that way I have full ammunition as soon as I get my loadout. And alright guys, so that's going to effectively conclude the class setup portion of today's video, and in addition to that, that's going to effectively conclude my first ever best loadout video here in Call of Duty Warzone Pacific. So with that said, I hope you went on to enjoy it, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like on it down below, as well as subscribe and turn on post notifications, so that way you guys will not miss any of the latest and greatest Call of Duty news, class setups, intel, and so much more. And before I end off today's video, I do want to mention about my lack of uploads recently, and I do sincerely apologize for that. However, without diving into too much detail, things are doing a lot better for me right now, and I'm also not as busy, so that means I am going to be able to make a lot more videos and be a lot more consistent. However, I do want to say thank you to everyone for sticking with me and actually being there to watch my videos day in and day out. So thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate it. And yeah, with that said, thank you once again for watching this video. I'm your host, Deeper Jungle, and as I always say, I hope to see you in the next one.
Gas is closing in. Relocating the safe zone. Mark our rally point.
Copy that.
Lights on hostile!